You weren't supposed to see this, she whispered, her face pale as snow. I held the second phone up in the air, her secret lifeline to every filthy thing she thought I'd never know. There's over 300 messages here. Emily, I said, voice trembling. Which one should I read out loud first? The one where your boss calls you, his little office treat? Or the one where you tell your gym trainer I'm too boring to notice your bruises? She lunged at me, panicked, desperate, but I stepped back. Too late. I had already copied everything. Screenshots, chats, photos. I had turned her betrayal into a slideshow presentation. And tomorrow, in front of her entire company, right before she accepts her big promotion, I'm going to play it. Every single slide. But you're probably wondering, how the hell did we get here? Let me take you back to where it started. Back to a normal morning. Back to a purse and a second phone. Emily never liked mornings. She moved slow, always groaning about needing coffee before talking. But that day she left in a rush. Hair still damp, perfume trailing behind her like a guilty cloud. I came down a few minutes later and found her purse on the kitchen stool. Open. I was just looking for gum. That's what makes this even more insane. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. I just wanted a damn mint before my Zoom call. And then my hand brushed something hard. It was slim, cold, black. A second phone. No case. No fingerprint lock. Just sitting there like it wanted me to open it. I should have put it back. I should have walked away. But I didn't. I tapped the screen. For missed texts. All from Nathan, boss. Last night was insane. You make me want to cancel my meetings and just keep you under my desk all day. Tell your husband you're working late. I need round 2. My blood froze. I clicked the thread. Dozens of messages. Memes. Private jokes. And the worst part, her replies. Flirty. Shameless. Cruel. He still thinks I'm going to yoga face with tears of joy. I fake everything with him. Don't worry. God, if he knew the stuff you do to me. I felt like vomiting. My fingers scrolled on their own. There wasn't just Nathan. Brian from the gym. Tyler from her work trip. Some guy saved as just Z. She was juggling men like it was a damn game show. And every thread was filled with mocking, dirty conversations, not just about what she did with them, but how stupid I was for not noticing. She sent photos. Selfies in hotels. Snaps of her in lingerie in our bathroom. One even showed her in my hoodie, biting her lip with the caption. He thinks I'm cooking dinner. You hungry too, babe? I sat down on the cold tile. The coffee machine beeped behind me. I couldn't breathe. My hands were numb. This wasn't some one-time slip. This wasn't an affair. This was a lifestyle. A performance she'd been running for months. And I had been clapping from the front row like a damn fool. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even call her. I stood up. Took the phone to my laptop. I screen recorded everything. I created folders by name. Nathan. Brian. Tyler. Z. Then I had an idea. Emily had been talking all week about her big promotion ceremony at work. Her company was celebrating her move to Director of Human Resources. She'd be giving a speech. Thanking people. Talking about loyalty and trust. How poetic. So I made a presentation. A real one. Slides. Names. Messages. Images. Timestamped lies. I added titles like Exhibit A, the desk appointment. Exhibit B, yoga class or Motel 6. Exhibit C, married, but not committed. She was about to get a standing ovation. I'd just make sure they clapped for the truth. 3 hours later, she walked back in the door. Smiling. Makeup fresh. Eyes sparkling like nothing was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek and set her keys down. How was your morning? She asked. Productive, I replied. She laughed. Mine too. You'll be proud. I finally crushed that presentation draft. Want to hear it? Oh, I'd love to, I said, smiling. I looked at her. Really looked. The way she swayed her hips. The fake sparkle in her eyes. The lies behind every word. She had no idea what was coming. But soon she would. Emily had no clue. That was the wildest part. She breezed around the kitchen like she wasn't a ticking bomb with a smile. She grabbed almond milk from the fridge, humming some Taylor Swift song. Meanwhile, I stood there watching her pour coffee, knowing she had no idea I had seen everything. She was cheating with at least 4 guys. Possibly more. She wasn't even good at hiding it anymore, but I had been too in love, or maybe too stupid, to see it. You okay? She asked, finally looking up. Yeah, I nodded. Just thinking. She walked over and kissed me on the cheek again. I didn't flinch. I didn't let her feel how much I wanted to scream. Instead, I leaned against the counter and said, "Big day tomorrow, huh?" She lit up instantly, like a spotlight had hit her. "Oh my God, yes. You have no idea. I've been working on this promotion for months. I'm going to kill this speech. Finally get that office view, you know?" I smirked. "What are you going to say in the speech?" She rolled her eyes dramatically. "I mean, obviously I'll thank my team, and maybe throw in a line or two about you. If you're lucky." "Right. If I'm lucky." I could barely believe it. She was still playing the loving wife routine while she was riding half her office behind my back. The same people who were going to clap for her tomorrow, at least two of them were in her inbox, calling her their sweet little HR secret. "Are you nervous?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. I've been through worse. You remember when I had to fire that guy who cried in the break room for 3 hours? Yeah, I remembered. The same guy she was texting, 'I miss your hands,' to 6 days later." I stared at her, something cold growing inside me. I always thought if this kind of betrayal happened, I'd lose it. I'd shout, flip a table, throw something at the wall. But I was past that. I was past pain. Now I was focused. Tomorrow was her day. She wanted lights, applause, respect. I was going to give her something unforgettable. That night, I barely slept. I stayed in the guest room under the excuse of snoring and kept perfecting the presentation. Slide by slide, I structured it like a courtroom case. Each man had his own section. Nathan, boss, screenshots, photos of her leaving work late, the conference call that took place at a hotel. Brian, Jim, selfies at the gym locker room, texts like, "Tell your husband you're running laps. I'll be waiting in the steam room." Tyler, Vegas, a plane ticket she told me was for a friend's bachelorette party. Turned out to be a solo trip to Vegas for 2. Z, unknown, he sent her money. Cash App receipts. For lingerie, the notes said. Each section ended with her laughing about me, calling me boring, clueless, safe. Safe. That's what I was to her. A safety net. I added background music. Slow piano under the slides. Not to be dramatic, just to make people really feel it when they watched. And then I added the final slide. Just black, white text. "Thank you for your time. This is what loyalty looks like when you ignore the signs." At 3 a.m., I closed the laptop. I stared at the ceiling in the dark. My chest was tight, not from heartbreak anymore, but from anticipation. I knew what tomorrow would be. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be messy. It would be clean, quiet, and unforgettable. Emily would walk into that boardroom thinking she was the star, but I'd be sitting in the back, USB in my pocket, and the truth locked and loaded. The next morning felt like Judgment Day. Emily floated around the house like she was Cinderella on her way to the ball. Hair curled, heels clicking, a bright red lipstick she only ever wore when she wanted to make an impression. "Wish me luck," she said, spinning once in front of the mirror like a pageant queen. I didn't blink. "Break a leg." She giggled. "You're the best, babe." I watched her walk out the door and get into her car, the same one I bought her last year. She waved, blew a kiss, and disappeared down the street. I waited 5 minutes. Then I grabbed the USB. The presentation was stored under the file name. Emily_promotion_final.ptx. I knew the ceremony was at 10 a.m. It was being held at her office's corporate conference hall, a fancy glass room they used for major events. Luckily, Emily had invited me. She even left a guest pass on the counter. "So proud to have you there," she had written on a sticky note. I peeled it off and stuck it in my pocket. By 9:15, I was parked 2 blocks from the building. I didn't want to arrive too early. Didn't want to talk to anyone. I wasn't there to mingle or pretend. I was there to ruin a carefully constructed illusion. At 9:50, I walked into the lobby, flashed the pass, and made my way to the conference room. Inside, rows of chairs were filled. Suits, skirts, ties. Colleagues laughing, talking. Her boss, Nathan, the bastard, was already up near the podium, talking to someone from marketing. I took a seat in the back. Quiet. Invisible. Watching. Emily entered at 9:57. She wore a sleek white blazer and carried herself like royalty. People clapped as she walked in. Someone whistled. Nathan gave her a side hug. I saw it in his eyes. That fake professional smile. The smirk of a man who thinks no one knows. She looked around, spotted me, and gave me a soft little wave. I nodded. She didn't know the bomb in my pocket had already started ticking. The head of HR gave a brief intro. Then Nathan took the mic and began his speech. Today, we honor one of our most dedicated, hardworking, and loyal team members. Loyal. My jaw tightened. I pulled out the USB, slid it between my fingers. She's been a pillar of support and professionalism, and we're proud to offer her the position of Director of HR. The crowd applauded. Emily stood, clapping with mock humility. Her eyes sparkled. She loved every second. Emily, Nathan said, come on up and say a few words. She walked to the podium like a queen claiming her throne. I stood up. I walked straight to the AV technician in the corner. Young guy. Headphones. Laptop. Hey, I said, calm and cool. Emily left this final version of her speech presentation at home. She asked me to bring it. The guy nodded, unfazed. No problem, sir. Just give me the file. I handed him the USB. 30 seconds later, her voice echoed over the speakers. So many people to thank, she said. This journey has been one of growth, support, and loyalty. The projector flickered. Then the first slide popped up. Exhibit A. Nathan, close the door. A screenshot. Their texts. Her in his office, wearing the same white blazer. His hand on her thigh. The room went silent. Emily froze. Her eyes snapped to the screen. She blinked. Once. Twice. What is this? She stammered. Slide 2. He thinks I'm at yoga messages with Brian. Her in gym tights, straddling him in a mirror selfie. Gasps. Someone dropped their coffee. Nathan stepped forward, face white. Turn that off, now. But the tech guy was confused. I don't know how it got in the queue. This was on the drive. I took one slow step forward. Maybe she should finish the slideshow, I said loud enough for half the room to hear. All eyes turned. Emily looked like a ghost. The next slide came up. Exhibit C. Z pays her rent now. Cash App screenshots. Lingerie pictures. DMs with voice notes. Emily finally screamed. Stop it. Turn it off. Too late. The damage was done. And I was just getting started. The projector flickered, the room frozen in horror as the next slide loaded. I didn't blink. Emily stood at the podium, eyes wide, mouth trembling. Her carefully painted mask cracked under the weight of truth. Her boss, Nathan, was already backing away, like proximity to her might scorch his career. The rest of the office sat in stunned silence, unsure if this was a joke, a hack, or the most public implosion they'd ever witnessed. Who did this? She barked, panic creeping into her voice like a storm surge. I took a few steps toward the front. You mean, who showed them you? Her eyes locked onto mine. Recognition hit. Her pupil shrank. Her body stiffened. You went through my stuff? She hissed. No, I said coldly. I went through our lies. I turned to the audience. Sorry to interrupt your little celebration, folks, but I thought everyone should know exactly who they're promoting. I gestured to the screen behind her, now displaying a thread with Tyler from Vegas. This is what loyalty looks like when you ignore the signs. Emily's voice cracked. This is a violation, huh? No, Emily, I cut her off. What you did was a violation. Of our vows. Of my trust. Of every damn second I spent believing you were better than this. Her jaw clenched. But still, she tried to regain control. It's not what it looks like. The room collectively scoffed. That line? After 10 minutes of hard evidence in 4K? Not what it looks like? I laughed, my tone sharp. Was that not you in lingerie in the gym locker room? Was that not you telling your boss to close the door so you could relieve his stress? Whispers filled the room. Her coworkers were now openly whispering, some shaking their heads. A woman in the front row stood up and walked out. Another guy grabbed his phone, probably texting HR. Emily looked at Nathan. Say something. Nathan took one slow step back. I need to speak with legal. Just like that, her strongest ally vanished. And that's when the panic set in. Her cool, smug persona disintegrated in real time. She turned on the audience. Why are you all looking at me like that? This is my personal life. You don't know what our marriage was like. He's just bitter. He's always been insecure. Oh, now I was the problem. Tell them, Emily, I said, my voice calm, like a doctor delivering a terminal diagnosis. Tell them how many nights you were at yoga. How many weekends you were at your mom's. How many men you promised the same things you promised me. She was shaking now. You planned this. I didn't plan you, Emily. That was all you. I just finally stopped being blind. The presentation shut off. The room stayed silent. Then the senior HR executive stood. She adjusted her glasses and cleared her throat. We're going to postpone this ceremony, she said, her voice firm. Emily, we'll need to speak with you privately. Immediately. Emily's face crumpled. The award plaque that had just been handed to her was still on the table, untouched. She looked at me, eyes filled with rage and disbelief. You ruined my life. No, I said, you did that. I just took off the mask. As she stormed off, flanked by confused coworkers and a speechless boss, I stood still. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't gloating. I felt hollow, but not broken. Not anymore. I left the room quietly before the buzz of gossip could swallow me whole. Back out into the crisp daylight, my chest rising and falling as if I could finally breathe again. My phone buzzed. A message from her. Just 3 words. We need to talk. No, Emily. You need to listen. I didn't answer her message. Not right away. I drove home with both windows down, letting the wind hit my face like a cold slap of reality. It was over. The pretending. The gaslighting. The quiet, constant feeling that something was off but never being able to prove it. Now I had proof. Hell, I presented the proof. And still, despite everything, I felt like someone had scooped my insides out and left the shell behind. When I pulled into our driveway, her car was already there. Of course it was. I opened the door, and she was pacing in the living room, heels off, hair wild, still wearing the white blazer like it hadn't just been stained with disgrace. You didn't answer my text, she snapped. I didn't feel like talking to a liar, I said, calm as ice. She stopped, turned to face me. Her eyes were red, but not from sadness. No, this wasn't grief. This was fury. You humiliated me in front of my entire company. Do you realize what you've done to my career? I laughed under my breath. Do you realize what you did to our marriage? She crossed her arms, glaring. So you went through my things? Invaded my privacy? Emily, don't do that. Don't stand there and act like you're the victim. I didn't ruin your life. You did that one hotel room at a time. Silence. Then she dropped the mask. Just like that. You know what, she said. Fine. You want honesty? I got bored. You were always so predictable. So safe. I wanted excitement. Passion. And guess what? They gave it to me. Every one of them. I felt it. Like a nail through the chest. But you stayed with me. My voice cracked just a little. You said you loved me. You said we were building a life. She shrugged. You were convenient. Comfortable. But come on. Did you really think someone like me was going to settle for only you? There it was. The monster behind the makeup. And I realized then that the woman I fell in love with was long gone, if she ever existed at all. I hope it was worth it, I said, grabbing a suitcase from the hallway closet. She narrowed her eyes. What are you doing? Leaving, I replied. And no, I'm not playing games. I'm not giving you a second chance. I'm not doing therapy or forgiveness. You burned every bridge. I'm just walking away from the ashes. You can't just leave, she shouted. This is our house. I paused, looked her straight in the eyes. No, Emily. This was our lie. I just stopped pretending. She stormed off to the kitchen, slammed a cabinet, then came back out, throwing words like knives. You'll regret this. You think you're some hero? You're just another insecure man who couldn't handle a woman with options. I zipped up the suitcase and headed for the door. Enjoy your options, I said without turning around. Let's see how many of them stick around when they don't have to sneak behind my back anymore. The last thing I heard as the door shut behind me was her screaming my name. I didn't look back. I checked into a cheap hotel that night. Nothing fancy. Just clean sheets, silence, and a door I could lock behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my phone, and opened our wedding photos. There she was, smiling in white, looking like she meant every vow she said. I deleted every picture, one by one. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Broken? Yes. But finally free. The hotel room was small, 2 lamps, a TV that buzzed quietly when it was off, and a view of a parking lot full of cracked concrete and empty takeout bags. But somehow it felt more honest than the house I had just left. I laid there, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Not the smile from our honeymoon, not the woman I thought I married. No, I saw the version from the boardroom, cornered, furious, exposed. That was the real Emily. By morning, I had a dozen messages from her. Where did you go? We need to talk about this like adults. You can't just throw away 5 years. You're being dramatic. This wasn't one-sided. I made mistakes, sure, but you weren't perfect either. If you don't answer me, I'll assume we're really done. That last one made me laugh. Assume? I turned off my phone and left it on the nightstand. No more words. No more spin. I was done letting her control the narrative. That afternoon, I went to a lawyer, a tall, sharp woman named Grace. She didn't blink when I laid it all out. She didn't gasp at the betrayal. She just opened a folder and said, "Let's begin." We talked division, the house, the accounts, the joint credit cards she had apparently used for weekend getaways I never took part in. "I want this clean," I told her. "Quick. No room for drama." She nodded. "Then we'll go in with evidence." "Which I assume you have." I slid the USB across her desk. She plugged it into her laptop. Her eyes widened as she clicked through the folders. "Well," she murmured, "this may be the most organized emotional destruction I've ever seen." I managed a half smile. "Thank you." By the next morning, she had already sent over the draft of the divorce petition. I forwarded it to Emily. An hour later, she called me. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. Eventually, I picked up. I had to hear it, whatever lie or tantrum was coming next. "Really?" She snapped. "Divorce? Just like that? You made your choices, Emily." She went silent for a second, then softened her tone. "Look, I was wrong. I know that. But we were happy once. You can't pretend we didn't have good times." I didn't argue. She was right. We did have good times. But good memories don't excuse calculated betrayal. I'm not pretending, Emily. I'm remembering. And I deserve more than a woman who throws away our life because she's bored. "You don't understand," she started. "No, you don't," I snapped. "You don't get to cheat, lie, manipulate, and then ask for understanding. That's not how this works. This isn't a story where the villain gets a redemption arc." She didn't respond right away. I heard her breathing shift. "You'll be alone," she whispered. "Eventually, you'll miss me." "No," I said, calm now. "I'll miss the version of you I thought was real. Not you." And then I hung up. It didn't feel victorious. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like closing a book I once loved, after realizing the last chapters were poison. I spent the next few days getting my own place. A small apartment. Clean walls. Simple furniture. No ghosts. I joined a gym. Started running again. Ate real food. Slept without listening for the door to open late at night. I was still healing. There were moments when I'd catch myself drifting back into memories. But each time, I reminded myself, she wasn't a mistake. She was a lesson. And I was finally learning. It took her 3 weeks to show up at my new place. I had just gotten back from the gym, headphones in, shirt damp, mind clear for the first time in months, when I saw her silver Lexus parked outside my building. She was leaning against the hood, arms crossed, eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. My stomach twisted. She hadn't texted that day. No warnings. No begging. Just showed up. I walked past her without stopping. "Don't ignore me," she said, her voice sharp, cutting through the calm I'd built like it was made of paper. "I'm not ignoring you," I replied, unlocking the building door. "I'm just done pretending you exist in my world anymore." She pushed off the car and followed me. "You can't keep avoiding this, Logan." "Emily," I said, turning around, "we're divorced. What part of this still exists?" She ripped off her sunglasses, revealing eyes swollen from crying. Her lack of sleep. Or the realization that for once, her charm wasn't enough. "I just need you to listen to me," she said. "Softer now. Please. One last time." I hesitated, then nodded toward a bench near the entrance. "You've got 5 minutes." She sat down, legs crossed, like she was still trying to impress me. "Old habits. I've lost everything," she said, voice trembling. "My promotion was pulled. HR is investigating me and Nathan. My reputation is shot. He won't even return my calls." I said nothing. She leaned closer. "I was stupid. I know that. But I never thought you'd do that to me." "You mean tell the truth?" I asked. "I mean destroy me." I shook my head. "You destroyed yourself. I just gave the world a front row seat." She looked down. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Then she looked back up. "Do you still love me?" That question hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had already burned everything down. Did I? I remembered nights when she fell asleep on my chest. The way she'd dance barefoot in the kitchen. The fake little frown she'd make when she was mad. But all those memories were contaminated now. Every kiss came with the image of her kissing someone else. Every "I love you" had an echo of her texting another man just hours later. "No," I said finally. "I loved who I thought you were. But that person never existed, did she?" She didn't answer. Instead, tears slipped down her cheeks. "You know what hurts the most?" she whispered. "That you never begged. You didn't fight for me." That made me laugh. Cold and bitter. Fight for you? You think you're some prize to be one? I stood. I fought, Emily. For years. I fought every instinct that told me you were lying. I fought the pit in my stomach every time your story didn't add up. I fought for this marriage while you were in hotel rooms with men who didn't even know my name. She covered her mouth, trying to hold in a sob. I would have forgiven a mistake, I continued. But this wasn't a mistake. This was who you are. You betrayed me on purpose. Over and over again. Her hands dropped. She looked up at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. I didn't think you'd ever leave. There it was. The truth behind her arrogance. She thought I'd stay. That I'd tolerate anything as long as she came home at night and gave me a fake smile. Well, I said, walking back toward the door, you were wrong about that too. I left her there on the bench. Alone. Just like she left me every time she chose someone else. And for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt free. 2 months passed. I hadn't heard from her since that day outside my apartment. No more texts. No more surprise visits. Silence. The kind of silence that either meant she finally got it, or she found another distraction. Either way, I didn't care. In that time, I rebuilt. Slowly. Not all at once. I still had nights where I stared at the ceiling too long. Still had mornings where I expected to hear her footsteps in the hallway. Habits die hard. But I started living again. I picked up my guitar, something I hadn't touched in years. Went hiking every weekend. I even started smiling in photos again, real smiles, not the forced kind I had mastered in our marriage. One night, while grabbing groceries, I ran into my neighbor from our old street, Mrs. Lacey, sweet old woman who used to wave at us every morning. She looked at me like I'd risen from the dead. Logan, my goodness, it's been a while, she said, pulling me into a warm hug. I heard about everything. I'm so sorry. I smiled. Don't be. It saved me. She nodded slowly. You know, she still lives in that house. Alone. Never comes outside anymore. Shades drawn. Some days I wonder if she even eats. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Tell her I said hi? That part of my life was sealed. But hearing that she stayed there, that she was drowning in the house where she buried our trust, it didn't make me happy. It just made me realize how far I'd come. 1 week later, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I knew the handwriting before I even opened it. Emily. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to rip it up, throw it out. But something stopped me. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was curiosity. Inside was a single page. Logan. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to finish reading this. But I had to try. I had to get these words out before they eat me alive. You were right. About everything. I thought I was untouchable. I thought you'd always stay, no matter how far I pushed. I thought I could live 2 lives, the one with you, and the one with my selfish desires. But I was wrong. And now, I live with it. Every day. The house feels haunted. Not by ghosts, but by all the versions of us I destroyed. I still see you sometimes, in the mirror, in the doorway, in the sound of the floorboards at night. I lost more than a husband. I lost my mirror. The only person who saw me not just for who I pretended to be, but for who I really was, and still stayed. I know I don't deserve your kindness. But if there's a small part of you that remembers the good, I just want you to know I remember it too. And I'm sorry. Emily. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. And then I walked to the nearest bridge and let the wind take it. I didn't need her words. I didn't need her apology. I had already forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine. Because holding on to hate? That's just another leash. And I wasn't anyone's prisoner anymore. Not to lies. Not to pain. Not to the past. That chapter of my life was over. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to write a new one.